The opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and not necessarily those of WKTV Community Media.
Hello, West Michigan. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV. My name is Pamela Keim, your host. The spirit of the show is to introduce West Michigan to all the businesses, nonprofits, individuals that can help us thrive in our lives. We have a very special guest for you today, and I've been wanting her on my show for some time, actually. She's going to introduce Rick real quickly, too. You won't be on camera, but she'll point out to you. He's sitting right over there, and he's watching her every move. She is the executive director of Sylvan Learning Centers of West Michigan, and she's going to be here today to share with parents what services they have available, because everybody is starting to realize that their kids are very far behind. And in the years to come, it is not competing with West Michigan anymore. It is competing with people all over the world that are coming here with degrees and know how to read, write, and spell. So I want to welcome today Jennie Kueppers. There you go, the executive director. Perfect. And now she's going to share with you, and she's going to look right in the camera and tell West Michigan who she is. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Pamela. Well, thanks for having me, Pamela. Again, my name is Jennie Kueppers. I'm the executive director of Sylvan, West Michigan. We have 7 different locations from Battle Creek, Portage, Grandville, Grand Rapids, Rockford, and Muskegon, and Traverse City. And we are able to impact so many lives of students and parents throughout West Michigan with academics, building confidence, and just really seeing the change in students before COVID, during COVID, and now as we're trying to get back from COVID. There's just been so much light in students as they're realizing we care about them just as much as their parents and their classroom teachers do.
All right. So all of us that work in the business world, I know many people that have businesses, they're starting to see this on their children because we weren't prepared for America's shutdown. We had no idea what to do. They didn't do virtual. Some of them had 3 to 4 kids, right? You only have 1 or 2 computers, right? And I will tell you a quick story. You're going to get a hold on this. Okay, back. There was a students in Hudsonville. I'm sitting there talking. I was, they're sharing with me. And what they did was, because they knew their teacher the school didn't get this. All right, so they got this little group, all these smart guys, right? All men, and boys. Okay, and so he said, okay, that, like Rick's sitting over there. You're good in science. You're good in math, you're good in English, we're all getting the same assignments, and you guys are we're all gonna do each other's who's the best on. All right, so mom doesn't discover this until 8 months later, right? And she's like, now what do I do? Because her son only took care of the math part of the English when he was ever, and he never did it in the other part because they just submitted it to the school. And so, yeah. I said, some parents, some of these kids were smarter than the school was because they were trying to figure it out. Okay, now we're talking 2 years later, and you're looking down and you're getting to see your 4th grader have a reading level of maybe a 2nd grader that they're finding out, or they can't do math at a level. So what is going on, and what can parents do now? I mean, because what do you do? You got to make up 2 years.
And some have to make up more than 2 years because they're already behind before they got to that current grade.
Okay.
So if we look back at the entire history of the last 2 years, March 2020, everything just went up in smokes. We thought only 2-week break and we're fine.
Right.
So it really wasn't something that was prepped for. And over all of the teachers' spring breaks, they had to then learn, oh, I'm going to be going virtual with my class now.
Right.
So they had to take everything that we do as teachers in the classroom and change that to let's make it online. But then not every student has internet at home. Not every student has access to a computer.
Correct.
Like you mentioned, a family of 4, maybe there's 1 computer, but all 4 need to be online at the same time.
I only had 1 computer when my children were growing up. They only received their laptops when they were like at the college level.
Yeah.
That's when. We're dating myself. But
right, and the parents are usually still trying to work their full-time job, making sure their students online. So I have heard from many parents that they finally caught their student having like a still picture of themselves
I figured
on
that out.
Zoom. Yeah. So they're sitting there paying attention in class, so to
Playing
speak.
video games.
Yeah, playing
Yeah.
video games, or my favorite one was they just shut their camera off and took a nap. And when
that too.
they didn't come back to the next session for class, the teacher texted the parent and said, Johnny's not on. Parent found out that he was taking a nap, or did a spa day
Did a
as
spa
well,
day.
instead of class.
Yes.
So not only do we have the smart kids who mapped out with each other, you're
Right.
doing this class, I'm doing this class.
Right.
We have ones that were sleeping through it. Teachers can't manage a classroom like that because
Right.
they're all online. And normally, as a classroom teacher, we are so focused on being in person, building that relationship, and it's so hard to build that relationship with kids.
And making sure you do the work. You're not looking
Yeah.
at your neighbors. You're handing in your assignments. Your teacher can tell when which student is struggling.
Yeah.
Just by their facial. Like, I'm zoomed out. I have no idea. It went right over my head.
Yes.
You went up to the teacher's desk. I don't understand this. I don't know how many times my children did that. I don't get this, right?
Yeah.
I remember my fourth grader. He's my firstborn. Real quickly, he went up to his teacher's desk. He was in really getting harder math, right? Goes up to the teacher's desk, hands her the paper. He goes. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. And she goes. What do you mean you're not doing this anymore? He goes, I don't get it. So, you know.
Yeah.
But I do know, being in Zoom meetings all throughout 2020, I even got bored with them.
Oh,
I
for
am
sure.
not a Zoom person. I will do it. Great. I will do it. I did some of my interviews, but I am not a Zoom person. And I knew I put a still picture in there. I zoomed out at 90% of the time.
Yeah,
Whenever
absolutely.
people would send me a text, they're asking you a question. I'm like, oh crap.
Well, we've used Zoom even before it was popular for meetings because our team is so spread out.
Right.
Well, with that, even Rick and I can see, oh, this one's not paying attention. I'll text them while I'm talking to say, hey, I'm going to call on you, so be ready.
I
So
know.
it's adults doing it too, and if kids are learning from us, Zoom
Everybody
tired.
has a different way of learning. Right?
Yes.
And I was more of an in-classroom learner. I could not do, like you mentioned, I was not good when they just came out, online classes. I did one. And we had to go into the university to take the test. I hated it. I studied very hard for that class because I was not disciplined enough. Now we're asking these students that barely has got through puberty, right? You're going to be able to do this, and that's not what's happened.
No, and this is the worst part. So yes, going online works for those that are disciplined, dedicated, and understand how they learn best. And most of us don't learn that till we're out of college. So now we're asking third, fourth graders, middle schoolers, and high schoolers to be older than they should be and do this without being coached or trained how to do it. So we have had such a large gap in learning because of that. And then, in the fall of 2020, when they started doing half virtual, half in person
Right.
at school, kids didn't know what to do, which way was best for them, what was safest for them. And then going back into in-person school, oh, just kidding, you were exposed, now go out for 14 days.
Oh, God.
So all of this change
Yes.
is not only really stressful and building more anxiety for our students, it's just as stressful for our teachers. And that's why so many teachers are leaving right now, because they can't do everything that they love to do with the students and watch that light bulb moment, which is the best part of an educator, by the way.
Well, I will tell you, I just spoke to somebody yesterday and said that what happens is that when these kids went to high school and whatever, they connected to other kids that had smart, okay? I mean, we all know our limitations. I
Yeah.
hung around with the smartest kids in the room, right? And I said, if I can't figure it out, I could always call, back in the day you called them, right? But anyways, he was saying that it's a collective minds
Yeah.
around these students, and these students brought you up. My son always had a study group, always did very well in school. So he said, these people raise you up. Well, what do you do when you don't get that with virtual as much? I mean, you could, but not to the extent of me sitting in a study room, and you're doing something, Rick's doing something, I'm doing something, and understanding the process. And if you can't, Rick could probably figure it out. You could take me as far as I could, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you have to start thinking, Pamela, but I'm telling you, I did that in college too. I mean, what about students that are not getting with the collective minds to help them get into the universities they want to get into? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think the biggest part of that too is without students being able to see how others are working, like we want everybody to be their own.
Right.
But you also learn by watching people do different things. So like Rick and I am a very hands-on, let me put it into practice and try it. Rick is a very analytical learner.
Oh, I know. I got your email. My husband was very impressed by it. Rick goes, because he prints out my emails because he's got a better printer. And he goes, yeah. I go, the other one's like 5 questions. Yeah, I got Rick's email. And he was reading it. So you are a very good writer.
Yes.
I will have to tell you. I would give anything to have your writing skills. My husband's a very good writer.
See,
yeah.
That and also the Excel spreadsheets and everything. And I'm just like, let me just try to put this into practice. I've got it. Okay. So moving forward. So everybody's a different learner that way.
Right.
But when you're able to visualize it and see all different ways of learning, that's how kids learn to manage their study skills.
Right.
So they've missed out on that. The biggest hurdle for students in the last 2 years is, let's just say, Johnny's a 4th grader. Okay. Johnny's 4th grade teacher is supposed to take him from 4th grade to 5th grade. But because he was virtual and missing a lot of information, he's now probably 12 months farther behind than he could have been before starting school.
You know what that feels like in school? Because I was a behind student.
You're
embarrassed.
Yeah. You don't want to ask questions. You just sit there and you become quiet. And because other kids are acting out and they don't understand, they're the ones that get the attention and get the additional support.
Right.
So that makes it harder for the kids.
And they have it at home. Some people do have it at home. They may have their mom's able to work from home. They understand it. I didn't have that resource.
Yeah.
So I got further and further behind in my reading and writing abilities as I, pretty much skipped school. Didn't go to class, because I escaped it. I escaped it by absentees. I went out with the wrong crowd. I didn't do anything really bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We're going to go home early. And I was only hurting myself.
Right.
Not learning, not getting those skills up.
Right. And then students think, oh, I'm not going to turn this homework in to get back at the teacher for assigning this assignment that I think isn't very fair. Who's it hurting?
Right.
So then over COVID, as long as you just eventually turned it in, and they had extensions to even turn it in during the summertime, instead of by the end of the school year, as long as you did it, you got an A in many districts.
Right. I heard talk to teachers.
Yeah.
Right.
2-3 weeks of COVID.
I knew teachers.
Yeah.
But my husband did tell me that it moved our society up 5 years into the virtual world, which he had everything in place at his, his credit union, but it just moved his members' society up 5 years ahead. Okay, so now parents are out there discovering this. They don't know where their child's going to test. They are realizing that they don't know as much as maybe their siblings that graduated before them knew, and they're ready to enter university, and they're not going to be sitting next to their students from class. They're going to be students and people from all over the world that have tested well to get here, that was able to get in, right? And that's one of the rudest awakening I've heard from college students, that even the top 10 of their class, it's a different world at U of M. It's a different world at Michigan State. You're sitting with these people that come from all over the world. All right, so now parents are saying, I want to be able to do something. I want my child tested. What do you have? How's the process work?
Yeah, so at Sylvan Learning Center, any one of our locations, we create personalized programs for every single student. We want to get to know the student on an academic and social level. So with this, it helps us create that personalized learning plan to see where they're actually starting at, where the gaps are at. If you think about it, like building a house, for example, you need to have a strong foundation. If you don't have that strong foundation, and then you try to put the support beams up, it could then tip sideways or something, and then you try to put the roof on, you're just going to have
didn't you watch Three Little Pigs? The windstorm comes in, right?
Yeah, the wolf's coming.
And if you don't do a foundation, I tell you, I use my basic math skills more in my life than I do anything else.
Yes.
when I'm in the store or whatever. Thank God. I know that, right?
Mental math is definitely something that we are really trying to get back into practice because COVID, kids could always have a phone out or find the calculator on their computer and do it that way. But we need to know, where is Johnny's foundation at? His 4th grade teacher is supposed to take him from 4th grade to 5th grade, not 1st to 5th grade.
Right.
So if there's a gap there, Sylvan can identify it. Sylvan can tell you exactly what the game plan is going to be to get him caught up to grade level.
Right.
We're not going to say he's horrible at this. These are we'll show his strengths.
Okay.
Because many students can perform on certain areas higher than they can on other areas.
Okay.
So you have to find that balance. Great, Johnny's foundation is lacking in
Critical thinking skills.
critical thinking, problem solving.
That's a big one.
Yes. Think of middle schoolers. Those are the 2 or 3 critical years for students to understand. One, what the social awkward years. I don't know if you remember your middle school years, but mine were just
Horrible. I don't want to ever go back.
Yep. Think of that. You're doing it virtual now,
Okay.
but then you're not learning how to actually socially interact.
Right.
That's the time where you actually learn some study habits. And then the 7th and 8th graders are now 9th or 10th graders in high school in person, and they don't know how to organize their backpack, how to actually study for a test, how to take notes, how to turn homework in on time.
Right.
So we at Sylvan...
Do an outline. How do you
What's
write a paper?
Yeah. How do you
know?
put citations in? We at Sylvan can do a study skills assessment, help them identify where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses. Are you a tactile learner? Are you a visual learner? Are you very analytical? Do you need to draw pictures? Like, what drives you, and how can we help take that and guide it into your study habits?
Right.
Because that takes you into college too.
Oh, it takes you everywhere.
Yeah.
Somebody says, give me a breakdown. Just send me the highlights. What's important. Make it short because people only have so much time.
Yeah.
So, love your email, Rick. So, I mean, David, on that one. But I will share with you what I did when my son was struggling. I'm going to say one of my children. Right?
There you go.
ACT scores and SAT scores, we're talking 10 years back. I don't know how valid they are today, but went to Sylvan, needed to get these up to get into a university. Better score because they have better chances at scholarships. If you have certain levels, there was things going on. Share with parents. Maybe they're sitting there with 11th grader and they took it already. And they're like, this is not going to work, even to get into Grand Valley.
Yes. Yes. So
Not to say Grand Valley's bad, but you know what I mean.
Right.
I mean, people, because it's a local college,
yeah.
right? In Cornerstone and
Calvin.
all those guys. They look, I don't know what universities look at it in the time. My children were trying to get into, I wanted to get away from home, get away from mom and dad. We want to go to university, we want to go to these colleges. Okay, well, what do you need to get in?
Right. So this is the hard part now, because so many colleges, there was a time where colleges are saying they are test optional or test blind. That's saying that if there's test blind, you don't have to take the SAT or ACT to get in. Or if it's test optional, you can do it, you don't have to, but make sure your extracurriculars are like on point and see if you get in that way. But really behind the scenes, you need to take it no matter what. Because if you don't have a very strong essay to get in, then you need to be able to have a score. So even though you heard the test blind, test optional, colleges are still expecting to see those scores and seeing that you are a student who is really putting forth their academics and doing everything you need to get in. But at the same time, when you're virtual, you don't learn those strategies, and it's hard to teach SAT to 40 kids from a school standpoint.
Right.
So for Sylvan, we have those one-on-one or small group, 3 students at a time, to still have that independent approach where we can teach specific test-taking strategies to the SAT, but that also builds you into, okay, this is how I can take a test in college now. Because college tests aren't always the same as what you have in high school. Your professor might give you a study guide and say, this is what might be on the test. And then you show up to the test and nothing on the study guide is on there. So you need to know everything.
All right, so that seems, you parents out there, my kids already went through college. I'm done. I'm out of that season. I do remember things have changed a little bit, but I will tell you, as going through life at my age, what things matter is math, so I don't get ripped off, money exchange, and writing skills as you receive different emails from people. I would go, right? And when people really needed help. So are you looking for, we spoke on the phone, I spoke with Rick, are you looking for, I know you're looking for students. We want to help, believe me, I want you to help every student that comes in your door. Are you looking for people that, you know, college students and stuff like that are looking for jobs? Do you have opportunities there to help?
Yes.
To hire?
Yes. So normally we require certified teachers to work for us. But with the labor shortage and everything that's going on, we have gotten permission to go to college students who are in the education field, if they're a junior or a senior that have already started their education classes, so they get that teaching experience as well.
Everyone I've ever had coming out of Grand Valley, Ferris, they were top notch. They were further down the road than I was.
Right?
You know what I mean? They had great writing skills in that stuff. So I think it's really nice you would give somebody an opportunity. And maybe a mother that's now realized she could stay home and not pay daycare, was a school teacher, she can do this. She's looking to go to a couple nights a week and work. And I did that. I did things like that to pay my kids piano lessons. And music lessons, and God only knows what else, you know, and go down the pike. Pay for Sylvan. It's basically pay for Sylvan. Everything was to get my kids to the goal of their dreams. That I felt like that was my role. And I did the best of my ability. But it was working a little part-time jobs, Saturday afternoons. My kids I can't say they never played the piano. They had a baby grand. You know, that was important to me. I don't know what's important to you parents, right?
Yeah, and I will say too, just based off of that, if you're a teacher at Sylvan, you do get a discount for your students.
See, that would have been very important to me.
Right?
If I was at that level. Yeah, if I could have done that.
Yes, but also since, you know, Sylvan has been around for over 40 years. We are the top in the supplemental education industry. So we have a lot of research behind how we create programs, how we help students. There is a fee for the service.
Right.
But there's also funds out there now for schools to use.
Really?
In the nation, there's over 750 million or billion dollars out there.
I'm sure there is.
And each school they're called ESSER funds. Each school has a certain amount to use to help students and get them caught up, to work through the unfinished learning that we've had. So with that, now's the time where the administrators are trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to put these funds to work? Where can we use it? How can we use it? Some of it is to update the building, some is to get new resources, but others are used to really focus on this unfinished learning. And Sylvan is more than willing and able to come into schools and help tutor students, whether during the day or after. We have a couple different contracts with schools currently where we are finding out where the students are scoring at with a small group, just to show how well it works and moving forward. So identifying their gaps like we do with a normal student that comes into Sylvan. And then we teach them for 15 weeks, and it's individual based. And then at the end of that, we will have the data to see how far they increased. And with that, we can continue to help the school districts, but more importantly, help the teachers, because they are so tired.
I would tell anybody, and maybe there's some grandparents out there, veer your money towards something like this, as opposed to the next video game, the next electronic, even I would say even the next vacation, because you're going to only have a window of opportunity until they're in high school. I can't control my kids once they graduated, went off to college. It was wholly up to them. But I can, and paying for everything of their lifestyle up to their senior year. How can, you know, if I was looking at if I had a grandchild that was suffering right now under this COVID thing and wasn't well, I would allocate funds to that. I would do it because I know the payoff, and I've lived my life and realized the opportunities that were missed because I didn't have the skills, certain skill level, how many times I got ripped off, even when you do your taxes, everything like that, what you're doing because you don't understand what you don't understand.
Exactly.
Right? So the more skills you have, your child will be solid. So if you're a grandparent out there, you heard that one of your grandchildren are struggling in school. They may be reading a book to you when they should be further along than what your children were. Then we want them to call.
Yes.
Call you. So
Yes.
how can they call you?
Yes, absolutely. So we have multiple different ways that you can reach out to us. First, you can go on to sylvanlearning.com and you can actually fill out a request form for us to call you. Or you can call our 800 line, 1-800-EDUCATE, and be directly connected with the closest Sylvan to your center. Or if you're a grandparent and you're watching this in Arizona, but your students are here in Grand Rapids, call, put in your Grand Rapids zip code, and that we'll still get connected to the right center, and we'll get that set up for you guys.
Right. Is there anything else now that we are in a close here, close to the half hour? So is there anything else that we didn't cover in my questions? I didn't put my glasses on to look, but is there anything else? Look over at Rick. Why don't you just say, I know he's not going to be on camera, but who Rick is?
Yeah. As he's sitting over in the corner laughing.
Yeah, he's not on camera, but he's sitting here watching us.
Yes. So Rick is the owner of Sylvan of West Michigan. So he owns all of the 7 centers. He is my boss. We have a great time. Oh, we might get him on camera. But Rick is, he's definitely jumped feet first into owning the centers. He took over almost 2.5 years ago now.
We serve on the YMCA board together. So
Yeah.
he knows, we raised some money for that great mission in our community.
Yeah.
So that's always been fun.
Yes, and it's been great having him around. He's learning the ropes of Sylvan. I've been around Sylvan for over 9 years. So he's learning it, and we've just gotten to the point where it's a fun, joking relationship because our kids have to have fun in the class, in school.
And I think kids have more fun when they feel they can be successful in the classroom because that's a lot of their life. That is a portion of their life throughout to their 12th grade. And you either embrace it or you run from it.
Yeah.
If you're not good.
Yep.
So I would highly recommend. I love any learning, any kind of improvement because I was a struggling student.
Yes,
and
with,
ran.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too is when students come to Sylvan, we're a constant in everybody's life. Like we aren't shutting down, opening, shutting down, whatever. We are constant. We're here to support through everything, and the kids build relationships with other students. And when they walk in and see they're not the only one struggling, they're willing to then open up and gain that self-confidence. So instead of ditching out, skipping class, they're like, yes, I have people that are just like me, and we can bond over that. And that's pretty cool to see, too.
Yeah, and I will just tell you, when I went back to college, I will share why this is very important. I had to take those classes, 097 classes, remember, going into college, because I was not prepared when I went back to college at the level I should have been because I ran from my difficulty I had in school back in the 70s, right? And so I will tell you, I had to shell out a whole year at CC taking those classes. It was, it was community college back then, but some of you remember it was a junior college. And that was money out of my pocket that did not go to my degree. So that's what happens when you don't face difficulties. You're
Yes.
going to pay more later.
Absolutely. And our younger kiddos right now, they're the 3rd, 4th graders that are struggling who miss the phonics skills.
Right.
Because they were doing virtual learning. They're the ones that are getting hit hard too. And if you can catch them first, it's going to cost a lot less than if you wait to try to get them the help that they need in middle school or high school.
Right. You get Sylvan to test you, or colleges will be testing your student. There's no way around it. You have to get admission testing. I had to do it.
Yeah, I have to do it. Yeah.
And they're going to tell you where you are, and you're going to go. You're starting in 097 classes. I'm like, what's that? That doesn't count, but you will pay for them.
Yes. Yes. So that's more expensive.
Exactly. I want to thank Jennie Kueppers for being here today. She is the executive director at the West Michigan Sylvan Learning Centers, correct?
Yes, thank you.
All right. And look her up, call them, and let her test your student, your child, grandchild, great-grandchild, whatever you have, and see where they're at so they can succeed and thrive, or they're going to run from it the rest of their life. And we want to thank her for being here today. This is Grand Tap Media Business TV, and we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.